The past speaks to us. Let's go see what it has to say. On July 7th, 1919, a convoy departed on a cross-country trip from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco, California. During the trip, the United States Army Motor Transportation Corps drove over 3,000 miles on the historic Lincoln Highway. This was a treacherous journey and well documented on film. The trip was accompanied by a young Dwight Eisenhower. It was this trip that inspired him to improve the future national highways as president. The journey started at the temporary marker for the Zero Milestone dedication on the ellipse south of the White House. The permanent zero marker is still there today. Secretary of War Newton D. Baker and Congressman Julius Kahn participated. Lieutenant Colonel McClure received a wreath to be delivered to Governor William Stevens of California. The military after World War I saw national security issues and decided to test the Army's mobility in case of war. The convoy traveled 3,251 miles in 62 days at an average of 6 miles per hour. Although it was a success, the mission was anything but easy. The convoy consisted of 81 vehicles and cargo trucks. For maintenance, 2 trucks carried spare parts, and 2 others were complete machine shops. 2 tankers carried fuel, and a third carried water. In addition, there were 11 passenger cars, 5 ambulances, and 4 kitchen trailers. The convoy also had platoon trailers for river crossings, a wrecker winch for the recovery and towing of broken vehicles, and a Maxwell tractor for towing. There were also 9 Indian and Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Some of these motorcycles served to scout the roads ahead. The convoy consisted of 39 officers, 258 enlisted men, and 1 Ordnance Department civilian employee. In modern times, the journey from Washington, D.C. to Frederick, Maryland would take around an hour or less. But Dwight Eisenhower wrote in his journal that it took them more than 7 hours to complete the 46-mile trip. Eisenhower also noted problems including a broken coupling on a kitchen trailer and a fan belt broken on a passenger car. And one of the cargo trucks had to be towed due to a broken magnetic coupling into the Army camp at Frederick Fairgrounds. The Midwestern states, the roads became difficult. In Eisenhower's journal, he notes that rain in Nebraska made the dirt roads slippery. He mentions that 25 trucks slipped into a ditch during the driving for that day, and that it was very apparent all trucks should be equipped with chains for front wheels as well as rear. Eisenhower called the roads gumbo mud and noted that the soldiers had to reinforce 2 weak bridges before the convoy could cross over them. On August 3rd, Eisenhower enters Sandy, some quicksand. The convoy drove 34 miles in more than 9 hours, and at one time the tractor towed 12 engineering trucks at the same time after they became stuck. That same day, a Dodge passenger car's carburetor clogged with sand. A tanker had a blown front cylinder head gasket, and several broken fan belts on a Dodge 4-wheel drive light delivery truck. It was not a good day for Dodges. At this point, they are crossing the Continental Divide just outside of Laramie, Wyoming, at an elevation of 8,020 feet. The Ames Monument in the distance was erected to Oakes and Oliver Ames, builders of the Union Pacific Railroad. The original tracks pass right next to the monument. There are still the remnants of a train town and cemetery by the monument, along with the foundations of a very scary train trestle, the very one portrayed in the TV show Hell on Wheels. In Utah, the situation became worse. While the convoy crossed the Great Salt Lake Desert in the month of August, the salt marsh had a very thin, hard crust of sand and crystallized alkaline, causing delay of the vehicles. Eisenhower wrote that particularly every vehicle was stuck and rescue work required almost superhuman efforts of entire personnel from 2 p.m. until midnight. Eisenhower also wrote that the desert delays caused a shortage of fuel and water. Water had to be placed under guard and rationed to 1 cup per man for supper and the night. In addition, Eisenhower wrote that the stalling of a fuel truck also prevented a hot meal and that supper itself was just cold beans and hard bread. A team of civilians eventually arrived by horse and provided the needed water. By August 30th, they were west of Fallon, Nevada. The convoy encountered several stretches of unstable conditions of dry sand and wet quicksand. Heavy vehicles had to be pulled and pushed through by combined efforts of tractor and men over wheel paths filled with sagebrush. 2 standardized Class B tankers sunk to a depth of 5 feet in the sand, requiring an extensive excavation and construction of false roads of railroad ties to aid the tractor in the rescue. On September 1st, west of Carson City, Nevada, they began to climb the Sierra Nevada mountains. The Nevada State Highway Department suspended all eastbound traffic from 6 a.m. until the convoy had crossed. They reached an altitude of 7,630 feet over a narrow, winding road of sand and broken stone. they finally made it to the California state line at Lake Tahoe, where they started their descent into the Central Valley of California, then on to Sacramento. On September 6th, the convoy came into Oakland, bound for a ferry across the bay to finally arrive in San Francisco. This historic journey created an awareness of the importance of a national road system for national defense. Many years later, the young Eisenhower became president. He signed legislation in 1956 to start the construction of the nation's interstate highway system. It is often believed that Eisenhower was only inspired by German highways, but experiences in the transcontinental motor convoy were even a larger inspiration.